The Nintendo Switch 2 has been out for 2 weeks at this point, and in the first 4 days alone, it sold 3.5 million units, meaning there are likely way more units out in the wild at this point. So it has been a massive success among the general audience and an early adoption rate. But do I regret my purchase of the Nintendo Switch 2? For me personally, no. I've been asking for an improved Nintendo Switch for many years, and the fact is the Nintendo Switch 2 is exactly what I asked for. A more powerful Nintendo Switch that does a little bit above and beyond what the first Nintendo Switch did, but adding some new features along the way. However, I'm just one person and everybody is entitled to their opinion. So if you are frustrated with the Nintendo Switch, let me know in the comments below, but let's talk about the Switch 2 right now. So first, let's talk about graphics and performance. And I've already kind of deep dove this on my review of the Nintendo Switch 2, so I won't spend too much time here, but I feel it's important to reiterate some of these facts. The games are bright and colorful. They look fantastic. They're running fantastic, especially the Nintendo first party games. In handheld mode is smooth and the screen looks fantastic. Genuinely, I personally can't tell a difference between my Switch 2 versus my OLED screen. They both look incredible. Games that are graphically intense like Cyberpunk are here as well, and while they may not be getting the 60 FPS that you can get on other systems, they look fantastic and they are running great, which is incredibly promising for the future of third-party games on this system, looking at Final Fantasy Remake that's coming a little bit later. And games in general are just running better. Even games that didn't get a Switch 2 update are running better on the Nintendo Switch 2. Looking at games like the Batman series, looking at Witcher 3, all of these games that were previously chugging on the old Switch hardware are just running better because the Switch 2 is brute forcing them. The biggest thing I would argue as far as new features are concerned with the Switch 2 that makes this system fantastic is the mouse control mode. This offers more ways than ever for people to hop in and play different styles of games. I've tried Civilization 7 with the mouse controls, and this is actually fantastic. I can't imagine playing Civilization with a controller, but with the mouse, the game just plays so well. Things like Cyberpunk 2077 work great with the mouse controls. Fortnite is the game that really sold me on the mouse controls though. It just works so incredibly well and gives me so much more control, and I really thought that initially it would be uncomfortable to use the Joy-Con as a mouse, but it has been a genuinely very positive experience. I never have hand cramping or anything to that effect, and the system is becoming my favorite place to play competitive shooters like Fortnite. I'm getting so excited at the potential updates for things like Apex Legends or Call of Duty coming in the future. It's a very exciting prospect with the mouse controls, and I'm excited to see how they implement it in other games like a potential Mario Maker 3 down the road, because it just works so well. And it's not something that I ever thought they would do, or not something I was necessarily asking for. I enjoy playing my games with a controller. I always do play Call of Duty or Marvel Rivals or things of that nature with a controller on my other consoles, but the mouse controls are a nice addition and give players more variety of ways to play, which is the most important thing. You can pick up the Switch 2 and play games however you want, handheld, docked, with a controller, Joy-Con, or with the mouse controls. There's just options everywhere, and I think that's incredibly positive. The biggest concern as far as is the Switch 2 worth it at this point is the lack of game argument that people have been toting online. And honestly, this is a concern for many people, and myself included. I am a little frustrated with the situation at hand. Mario Kart, Cyberpunk, Fast Fusion, and some Switch 2 upgrades were the big launch titles, but we don't really know what's coming next. We've seen a ton of other Nintendo first-party games that are announced, like Metroid Prime 4, Kirby Air Riders, Hyrule Warriors, but we don't know exactly when they are coming out. We have no release dates for any of them aside from Pokemon Legends EA. And we know that other third-party titles are coming to the system, looking at Elden Ring, Final Fantasy Remake. We just don't know when they're coming. The release dates aren't there. And the fact that the Switch 2 launched right before Summer Game Fest, and Summer Game Fest came and went, and we got like no real Switch 2 announcements from Summer Game Fest, it is a bit concerning. Now, why is this? Why are developers not showing that they're bringing games to Switch 2 at this point? Genuinely, I think it's Nintendo being Nintendo, and they want to control the narrative around the console. They want to have a big direct, and they want to be like, hey, we have third-party support, but they want to do it in their own way. So I think they're saving a lot of these trailers for games that likely are coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 for their direct, so that way they have entire control of the narrative surrounding those games. So am I concerned with the lack of game announcements on the Nintendo Switch 2? No, I'm more annoyed and frustrated than I am confused. I really dislike the whole Nintendo saving things for their direct. Like, if a game's coming to the system, just show the logo at the end of the trailer in stuff like the Xbox showcase. Like, if Gears of War Reloaded is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, just throw the logo right next to the PlayStation logo in that trailer. For me personally, it's not exciting to see a trailer initially for a game, especially one like Gears that we've seen and we've already seen multiple trailers for, that is coming to other platforms. It's not exciting to me to see another trailer in a Nintendo Direct that then confirms the game is coming to Switch. What would get me excited is just seeing the Switch 2 logo right there in the initial trailer. So I don't like this kind of, like, I don't know, like, it almost feels like superiority thing that Nintendo has about themselves, where they think it's important to save their stuff for their directs. That doesn't, it just rubs me the wrong way. I'm not a fan of it personally. So while it's frustrating, I'm not concerned, because we know a lot of games are going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, because again, Nintendo likes controlling that narrative. First and foremost, Call of Duty. We already know Call of Duty is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. We don't know when exactly, but we know that Microsoft signed a 10-year contract with Nintendo saying that Call of Duty will be on the system. So we don't know if it's going to be this Black Ops 7 that was just announced, but we know at some point Call of Duty is going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. We just don't know the fine details of that agreement. It could be the next Call of Duty after Black Ops 7. It could be Black Ops 7. Black Ops 7 is coming to PS4 and Xbox One, so it seems fairly likely that there's going to be a Switch 2 version of that particular game if it's running on the older, less powerful hardware. Not to mention, like I said earlier, there's 3.5 million units already confirmed sold, with likely more out in the wild at this point. So third-party developers are going to want to get in on that install base, especially if the sales continue the way they are. There's a lot of money to be made by hopping in on this particular system. And in my opinion, personally, I don't think it's a matter of if a lot of these third-party games are coming to the Switch 2. It's a matter of when they're actually getting announced. I feel like it's going to be a lot like the Switch 1, where a lot of these games that were already out on previous consoles, looking at things like Red Dead 2 and things of that nature, those games are going to be coming to the system. It's just a matter of when they actually get announced for the hardware. But do I actually think there's a lack of games on the Nintendo Switch 2? No, I actually think the opposite. Currently, I'm in a situation where I feel like I have too many games to play, and partly that is because I do content creation and I already have a huge Switch library, but there's just so much available for you right now on the Nintendo Switch 2. Things like Mario Kart, Cyberpunk, Fast Fusion, the upgrades that we got for Zelda, No Man's Sky, Fortnite, all of these games are on the Switch 2 already, not to mention other third-party games that are available on the hardware at this time. And there's games that are getting updated for the Switch 1, like Splatoon 3 and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, that are all running better on the Switch 2. On top of that, Switch 1 games, like I mentioned earlier, are just running better. Games like Dying Light, games like The Witcher 3, these games are just running better than ever on the boosted hardware, which makes me want to revisit a lot of some of these older games that maybe I never got around to playing on my Switch 1. Now it's worth hopping back in and playing them on the Switch 2 because they're just running so much better. And this is really positive as well for those that maybe didn't get into the Nintendo Switch ecosystem until the Nintendo Switch 2. You can catch a ton of these games on sale and pick them up for your Switch 2, and they're just running better because of the boosted hardware, which makes this very enticing for a lot of people with smaller libraries. On top of this, we just got the direct for Donkey Kong Bonanza, and that game looks phenomenal after that direct. Initially, I was already excited for that game, but after seeing the direct and all the new stuff they announced for that particular game, my excitement level went from about an 8 to a 10. I am so stoked on Donkey Kong Bonanza. It really looks like it's coming from the Mario Odyssey team, and it just looks like a great time. I already had it on pre-order, but now I just can't wait for it. It looks like a fantastic way to continue the hype of the Nintendo Switch 2 moving into July. So is the Nintendo Switch 2 worth getting right now? Yes, I think it is 100% worth picking up right at this very moment. With the launch game being Mario Kart World, there is so much content there available for you, and you're able to pick it up and play for tons and tons of hours, whether it be with friends, whether it be online, whether it be single player. There's so much to do in Mario Kart World that I just really recommend everybody that picks up a Nintendo Switch 2 picks up that game. It's just a game that you can play for the entire generation of Switch 2 and never get tired of. I love it. But other games like Cyberpunk and the Zelda upgrades, they're amazing, especially if you haven't played them. Not to mention the Switch upgrades like No Man's Sky, like Fortnite. All of these games are running fantastically on the new hardware and offering new ways to play the game, especially looking at No Man's Sky. They got a bunch of updates, adding multiplayer, adding crossplay, adding cross save. These games are just getting improvements, making them worthwhile experiences on the Switch 2. The mouse mode features are giving you more ways to play than ever, making you feel like you have a lot of autonomy in the way you actually go about playing your games. And like I said earlier, if you're new to the Switch ecosystem with the Switch 2, you can pick up a lot of these games on sale, especially those Switch 1 games that are just running better. You can pick them up and play them on the Switch 2 and just have a great time. There's a huge library of Switch 1 games, arguably the best library in gaming because of the way the platform works. You can pick those games up for your Switch 2 on sale and just have tons of content at your disposal. And we know, like I said, more fantastic games are on the way. Donkey Kong Bonanza is less than a month away, and that is incredibly exciting. And I'm sure at this point, there's going to be a Nintendo Direct coming very soon that announces even more stuff, release dates for those games that we talked about earlier that don't have them yet, as well as all those third-party games that are going to be coming to the system. It could be next month, it could be this month still. We still have a week left in June. There is plenty of time for there to be a Nintendo Direct within the coming weeks that just gets people excited for what's coming to the platform. So all in all, I'm very happy with my purchase of the Nintendo Switch 2. I play it every day. I enjoy it immensely, and it's something I can recommend to everybody that wants a solid console, especially a handheld home console hybrid that wants to get in and have a huge library of games at their disposal. So for me personally, it's worth picking up. But like I said at the top of the video, be sure to let me know if you're satisfied with your Switch 2 purchase or if you're a little disappointed in it. I'm curious in hearing everybody's comments in regards to that. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and sub for more like this in the future. Also be sure to check out the Discord where people are over there hanging out and talking Nintendo Switch 2 all the time. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe because it helps me out, helps the video out, and helps the channel out immensely. But until next time, peace.